If you've ever sat down for a genealogy research session, full of excitement, ready to make some big discoveries, and then hours later, you're staring at the same screen, frustrated with that nagging brick wall still standing tall, well, you are definitely not alone. I've been there myself more times than I can count. And after helping thousands of genealogists just like you, I've seen the same pattern over and over. So today, I am going to share the 7 most common genealogy mistakes that keep us stuck, mistakes that even experienced genealogy researchers make. I've made every single one of these in my career, and learning to avoid them has been a game changer for my own research. We're counting down from number 7 to the biggest one, so stick around to the end because mistake number 1 is the one that trips up almost everyone, and fixing it can transform your results almost overnight. All right, let's just jump in. Starting with number 7, chasing every shiny hint without any real focus. You know exactly how this happens. You log into Ancestry or Family Search, and suddenly those little leaves are showing up, or record hints are blinking at you, and they're saying, pick me, pick me. The next thing you know, you've clicked on 10 of them. And 3 hours later, you're deep into somebody else's family tree in a completely different county or even a different country. I know it feels like you're being productive because you're really busy. But in reality, you're scattering your energy everywhere. Those hints can be helpful, but without a clear direction, they often just lead you down a rabbit hole. And honestly, the work you do doesn't feel as satisfying, I don't think. So processing some random scattered hints doesn't lead you to a feeling of really getting to know your family better and the stories, because the process is so fragmented. So next time, rather than going directly to the hints, take just a moment and decide what you want to know and work on that. That way, the hints won't be directing your efforts, you will. Mistake number 6 is ignoring name variations and alternate spellings. Now, our ancestors often didn't have standardized spellings of their surnames. We all know that. And the clerks who wrote down their names certainly didn't worry about being consistent. A name like Schmidt could easily be Smith, or Kolowski could turn into Kolbowski. It all depends on who is giving the information and who is recording the information. So if you're locking yourself into only one spelling, the one that you're most familiar with, you might scroll right past the exact record that you've been looking for. It's hiding in plain sight under a variation that you never thought to try. Well, here's a solution. Before you launch into your next research session, make a list of all the variations of the surname. Even better would be to do this on a timeline. For instance, in my family, the Burkett surname started out as Burkhart. And over the centuries, it ended up as Burkett. So depending on the time frame that I'm researching, I have a better idea of the more likely spelling I might come across while keeping all the possibilities on the table. Having a little reference guide is very handy, and it's a big help. Mistake number 5, forgetting to research the fan club. These are your ancestors' friends, associates, neighbors. Your great-great-grandparents didn't live in isolation. They had neighbors on the census, friends who witnessed deeds or marriages, associates at church and in military units. These friends, associates, and neighbors are their fan club. And those people often hold key clues because their records mention your ancestors' participation in the event. If you stop when you hit a dead end and you forget to look at the people around your ancestor, you're possibly going to miss that one path going forward. Some of my toughest brick walls crumbled, not because I found a new record from my direct ancestor. In fact, in many cases, the records kind of just seemed to dry out. But it was because I followed a neighbor or a witness, and I discovered my ancestors in one of their records. And that connection was what kind of tied everything together. For example, maybe it seems like you've just run out of records to find your ancestor and you don't know if they just died or they moved away or something else happened. You run out of places to look. Well, that is a great time to look a little deeper into their fan club. By researching your ancestor's closest friend, you might locate their obituary in some old newspaper, and lo and behold, there is your ancestor listed as a pallbearer. Now you know he's still alive at that time, and maybe he's living close by. The fan club principle really is one of the most powerful tools that we have as genealogists. It's kind of cluster research in action. Mistake number 4 is relying solely on indexed searchable online records. Now, don't get me wrong. Indexes on websites like Ancestry and Family Search are incredible time savers, but they're created by humans or sometimes by AI, and mistakes can happen. Plus, millions of records are still only available as browse-only images. Yes, they are digitized, but you have to review them page by page because there's no index. And many records aren't even digitized. They're offline. They're in courthouses or archives or church basements. Probate packets, land deeds, local newspapers, unindexed court records, these are often the gold mines for breaking through a brick wall. If you limit yourself to what pops up in a keyword search, you are missing some of the richest evidence out there. The good news is that AI is making huge strides in making previously unindexed records searchable. Over at FamilySearch.org, they've implemented full text search with the help of AI, and it has been leading a lot of researchers directly to information that previously would have required hundreds of hours of scrolling image by image. Even then, there's still more records across other websites that don't have that capability. And of course, there's offline records in archives that remain hidden. You can learn more about Family Search's full text search in my video. It's called Find Millions of Genealogy Records with Family Search's full text search. So, after you exhaust searching for your people by name, the solution here is to shift gears from names to record collections. Start looking for the records that you think could contain information about your ancestor, even though their names are not indexed or the records aren't currently online. This switch from names to record collections, it can open up the floodgates. So once you have an idea of the kind of records you want, you could skip the search box on your favorite website and go to their catalog. This is where you can find all the available record collections that they have, whether or not they are indexed, and they're by topic, location, and keywords. You're going to see a lot of potential records, and you might wonder, why didn't this come up in my search? Well, it's because searching with the search box can't bring up records where your ancestor's name isn't indexed. And those hints that we talked about, they only hint on a small percentage of records that actually exist on the website. Mistake number 3 is accepting secondary information as fact. So let's say that you find a detail in an online family tree. Okay, maybe it's a birth date or it's parents' names, and it's been copied across dozens of trees. It feels sort of like a solid lead because so many people have it. But often those trees are just copying from each other, sometimes from an original guess or a misread or flat out incorrect record. So think of it this way. Popularity doesn't equal accuracy. If your goal is accurate genealogy, then the genealogical proof standard, which is known as the GPS, should really be your guiding light. And the GPS advocates for reasonably exhaustive research and reliance on original or strong derivative sources. So this means that we need to always trace the information back to the original source whenever possible. Now, I said that secondary information should not be accepted as fact. So what is secondary information? Well, there are 2 main types of sources, primary and secondary. And you've got to know and be able to spot the difference. Primary sources are original material from the time period or about the event. The information on it is coming from someone with firsthand knowledge. They were there. So examples of primary records can include diaries, letters, interviews, photographs, or the name of a baby provided by his mother. Secondary information is coming from someone who might not have been there at the time the event occurred, and the information may have been collected well after the event. An example of secondary information could include biographies and newspaper articles. And some records actually provide both primary and secondary information, and that's really important to keep in mind. For example, the person providing the information for a death certificate might be the grandchild. If they witnessed their grandparents passing, then that witness information is primary. But if they provide their grandparents' birth date and place of birth, that information is definitely secondary because they weren't there when their grandparent was born. And they may have been told about that information many years ago. We can't just hope that their memory was good. So take the time to really get familiar with the difference between primary and secondary sources and use that to scrutinize the records you're looking at. Get in the habit of making note about whether a record or information is primary or secondary as you're adding that information to your trees. If it's secondary, get out there and try and find a primary source to back it up. All right, we're at mistake number 2, and that is not documenting your sources properly as you go along. So you're excited. You find a census record that lists your ancestor's birthplace or occupation. You quickly add it to your tree and you move on. Well, then months or years later, somebody challenges you about that, or you find something that doesn't quite line up with it. So you look back at your tree and you think, oh, wait a minute, where did I get that information from? Suddenly you're doubting your own research and you have to redo what you already did. Good source citations from the start save enormous amounts of time. I can attest to that. A source citation makes note of when and where you found the information. It should include enough detail to be able to put your hands on that record again. There are even more compelling reasons to cite your sources. One is that when you hit a brick wall, that's the time to carefully comb through the records that you've already found to see if you missed something or if you made a mistake. We have to remember that we really are more experienced now than the first time we looked at those records. With a second look, we might catch something we missed. And the second reason is so that we can pass our genealogy on to future generations in a way that they can have confidence that it's correct. If you're new to citing your sources, be sure to check out my video on source citations. Okay, right after this, I'm going to have for you not only the number one mistake that keeps genealogists stuck, but I'm also going to share with you one of my personal biggest mistakes. But first, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by archives.com. They are the trusted destination for anyone eager to explore their family history. Archives.com offers access to millions of historical records, from birth and marriage certificates to census data, military records, and more, giving you the tools to dive into your genealogy with confidence. Their platform is designed to be user-friendly, making it easy for beginners and seasoned researchers alike to navigate through vast collections of documents. Behind the simple search interface, powerful technology works tirelessly to deliver accurate, relevant results, helping you uncover stories that have been waiting to be told for generations. Whether you're hoping to find long-lost relatives, confirm family stories, or trace your roots back many decades, Archives.com offers a cost-effective way to make genealogy research enjoyable and rewarding. So don't let your family history stay hidden. Visit Archives.com today and start your journey of discovery. Your family's past is just a few clicks away, so visit Archives.com. And now, the number one mistake that keeps genealogists stuck. This is the one that really encompasses all the others we've talked about, and that's researching without a strategic genealogy research plan or even a specific research question. This is the biggie, my friends. When you just sit down and you start looking around, hoping something's going to jump out at you, you can end up wasting hours duplicating searches, missing the most relevant records, and building family trees that sort of feel shaky. Without a targeted question, something like, what was the maiden name of Mary, wife of John Smith, married about 1855 in Ohio? And a step-by-step plan to answer that question, our research just stays scattered and inefficient. But when we have a focused question and a strategic plan, everything changes. We know exactly what we want to find, what we already know, which is important, which records to prioritize, and how to analyze conflicts when they show up, because they're going to show up. And when we've actually answered the question. The most effective way to stop aimlessly searching and start making consistent breakthroughs is by creating a research plan. That's what the professionals do. It doesn't have to be complicated or take hours and hours. In fact, I think that's really what keeps most people from doing it. They think it's going to take too long, or they aren't sure how to structure it. I hear from you guys. I get your emails, I get your comments. And a lot of times when you tell me about a brick wall that you've hit, in reality, I don't find a specific question in there. So I'll email back and say, but what specifically are you trying to find? And I get it, because you've been looking at everything and it gets kind of overwhelming. But it really is important to focus in and figure out what exactly you're trying to answer and then have a plan. I do sympathize with the feeling that putting a plan together is going to take too much time. It actually kept me from doing it for years, and I wasn't totally sure what a plan should encompass. I had heard people talk about the need to do it, but they never actually say this step by step how you do it. I tried finding some sort of template online that I could use because I really didn't want to reinvent the wheel. But since I didn't find one, I did do a bunch of research on what makes a great, effective research plan. I wrote down the steps and I created my own template. And I've got to tell you, it has been a game changer over the years in my own research. So when I'm faced with a new challenge, I just grab the template, I fill in the blanks, and I'm on my way actually finding things again. Recently I took an online class. Some of you know that I play piano, and I really wanted to learn how to play boogie woogie 12-bar blues. It seemed so daunting. It's so out of my comfort zone. But a lot of the folks in our neighborhood who get together and play music, they love playing the blues. So I needed to get on board. So I have an online piano course that I subscribe to, and the online teacher put out a new course. They taught the course in just 10 minutes a day. So I thought, okay, I could commit to that. I would watch and work along with the 10-minute video. And you know what? By the end of the week, I was playing boogie woogie. I was absolutely amazed. Everyone has 10 minutes a day. And I got to tell you, a week is going to go by either way. So why not have accomplished your goal by the end of it? So I decided that this would be a great way to help all of you kind of take on this challenge of creating great research questions and research plans. So I took the work that I've done for myself and I created a short course. It's called Create a Genealogy Research Plan in 10 minutes a day. It's 5 quick, focused lessons that walk you through the entire process. And it includes my downloadable research plan template. It's very comprehensive. It's the same one that I use myself. Now, I know that many of you watching are also Genealogy Gems premium members over at our website, genealogygems.com. And if you are, this is the good news. This course is yours right now. Just go to genealogygems.com and click courses in the menu. The course has a retail value of $99, but you get it as a benefit of your membership, which is half the price for the full year. If you're not a premium member and you're tired of hitting the same brick walls and you're ready to kind of feel more confident and excited about your research again, I'd love to have you join us and take advantage of the course and the template by becoming a member. You'll find the link down in the description and pinned in the comments section. You really do need a research roadmap, and this is it. All right, That's your 7 areas where you can really make improvements this year. Do you have another mistake that you wished someone had told you to avoid early on in your genealogy research? I'm sure some of you do. I definitely want to hear your story. So please leave a comment and let us all know. And I know you hear this all the time, but one of the ways that you can help me keep creating free content like this on YouTube is to leave comments and likes. Otherwise, YouTube just sends my videos into nowhere land where nobody sees them. You actually have a lot of power to help other genealogists and me by engaging here at the end of the video. So thank you very much for being my partner in doing that here at Genealogy Gems. And no, I didn't forget. I promised you one of my personal biggest mistakes. Look, when you get to be my age, you have a lot to choose from, unfortunately. But here's one from the archives. The crowning glory of the 1980s was the hairstyles. Think perm. Think big. Think yikes. Yeah, I think that perm kind of made me look like I have a mushroom on my head. Yeah, it's a good thing that genealogy mistakes are easier to fix than 1980s fashion regrets. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time.